Christendom rejoiced in 1099 when Christian crusaders from all over Europe captured the holy city of Jerusalem from the Islamic world. Christians from all over Europe wanted to make the long pilgrimage to the holy site of Jerusalem, but the pilgrimage was no small feat when you consider the distance from Paris to Jerusalem was over 4,000 kilometers, involving travel over land, sea, and several different kingdoms and empires. You would need to bring a significant amount of coinage in order to sustain yourself, or even more if you brought your entire family over such a long trip, and carrying that much coins is an invitation for robbery or piracy. So what is a God-fearing Christian pilgrim supposed to do? It's not like today where we have debit cards and credit cards, which are part of the international banking system. I can easily and reliably withdraw cash from an ATM in Tokyo, New York, or London. Well, lucky for our Christian pilgrims, the Templar Knights provided international banking services that we in the modern world know and love. The Templar Knights were created around 20 years after the capture of Jerusalem and was established to protect Christian pilgrims and Christendom in general. Monks entering the Templar Knights took a vow of poverty and chastity. The Templar Knights protected pilgrimage routes to Jerusalem and, just as important, provided international banking services to pilgrims. A Christian pilgrim was able to make a deposit to the Templar Knights in, say, London and withdraw that money while they were making their way through Europe and Jerusalem. You wouldn't have to run the risk of a highway robber robbing you of all your funds while you were on your pilgrimage. There are some speculation on how exactly this long-distance ATM network worked. Some historians speculated that pilgrims that made deposit in one location would receive an encoded document that other Templar Knights in other covenants would be able to decipher. But the most likely scenario was a letter of credit was sent before the traveler left, detailing the amount of money deposited and maybe a password or some sort of verification of identification when the pilgrim made his or her withdrawal. Now, the Templar Knights' international banking system worked because Christian pilgrims was able to trust the Templar Knights. The Templar Knights was in essence a non-profit organization that wasn't beholden to any particular kingdom or empire. France and England could be warring with each other, but that wouldn't affect your deposits or withdrawals because the Templar Knights was not an English or French financial institution. It was a neutral organization that was created to serve and protect the needs of Christians all over Europe and beyond. This neutrality not only allowed the Templar Knights to provide financial services to any Christian citizen, but it also allowed the Templar Knights to provide financial services to monarchs and governments all across Europe. Just like how everyday pilgrims would make deposits at the Templar Knights, kings, queens, and wealthy noblemen also made deposits at the Templar Knights. In fact, the Templar Knights once kept the crown jewels of England under its watchful eyes. The Templar Knights also recorded tax payments and detailed the debts and dues of royalty in both England and France. France relied on the Templar Knights so much that it was the de facto royal treasury and accounting office of France. The Templar Knights not only watched over the books for England and France, but they also provided financing to the more often than not cash-strapped monarchs across Europe. In 1213, the Templar Knights lent King John 1,000 gold marks for military expenses. Monarchs in Europe would also use the Templar Knights as a financial middleman to help them collect and disperse payments to each other, since the Templar Knights were not beholden to any particular head of state. For example, in the 1200s, Henry III of England wanted to purchase the island of Oran in northwest Bordeaux from the Count of March. He made payments of £200 per year to the Templar Knights in London, who then paid the Count of March. Because of its neutrality and working for a higher purpose, God, the Templar Knights could be trusted to facilitate these types of delicate financial transactions. In 1214, King John established a pension by depositing large amounts of funds with the Templar Knights, who would monitor and make payments from the pension when needed. We can see how much these European monarchs trusted the Templar Knights to act in good faith. With time, the Templar Knights grew fabulously wealthy through donations both as a Christian organization and as an international banker to Europe. Among its first donations the Templar Knights received was land from Baldwin, the ruler of Jerusalem, on Temple Mount and Al-Aqsa Mosque. Heads of state would also gift the Templar Knights tax-collecting abilities and promise them a share in the spoils of war if they helped defend and expand Christendom. The King of Aragon promised the Templar Knights 1/5 of all property seized if they would join them on their assault of the Moors. Others, such as Alfonso I of Spain, included the Templar Knights in his will, granting the Templar Knights a large amount of land and castles. However, in contrast to the Templar Knights' success in the banking functions, defending Christendom wasn't going quite as well. Jerusalem fell to Muslim hands in 1244, and the Templar Knights were not able to defend its holdings on the borders of Christendom, and in 1302, the Templar Knights lost its last castle on the coast of Syria. The loss of its military might and its major reason for existence, protecting Christian pilgrims and Christendom, made the Templar Knights an easy and attractive target, especially considering the wealth of the Templar Knights. In 1307, King Philip IV of France raided the Paris Covenant of the Templar Knights after Templar Knights refused to forgive the debts of Philip IV. There, in its Paris Covenant, the Templar Knights were tortured and made to confess of sins and crimes, such as worshipping false idols at their trial. The public and the Pope abandoned the Templar Knights. The Pope gave orders to the kings of England and of Aragon to arrest the Templar Knights. The Templar Knights were no more.